Welcome to EdLeader with your host, Dr. Rob Jackson. Join Dr. Jackson for conversations and reflections on improving educational leadership from the classroom to the boardroom and beyond. Educational leadership is an ever-evolving opportunity to make a real and lasting difference in the lives of students, parents, and the community. And now, here's your host, Dr. Rob Jackson.
Hi friends, welcome to the EdLeader podcast. I'm your host, Rob Jackson, and I want to thank you for spending time with me today. Please hear my heart when I share with you how much I appreciate all of the kind words and positive ratings and reviews. Last week, I received notice from the podcast hosting platform that EdLeader has reached another milestone, being downloaded and listened to over 20,000 times. Wow. Again, thank you. If you have not, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast player and share it with your network of colleagues and friends. Remember, you can find show notes, links to references that are cited during each episode, and find each of the EdLeader podcast episodes at drrobjackson.com. You've heard the clarion calls to prioritize your own self-care. We've heard that self-care is not selfish. A past guest, Dr. Carrie Robinson, told us way back on episode 8 that we cannot serve others from an empty plate. We get it. Self-care is important. But what does that really mean? Self-care. To answer this question, I've gone to the proverbial mountaintop to chat with one of my thought partners and gurus. I'm excited to welcome back a close friend and one of the most respected educators in our state, a past guest on this podcast himself. Please help me welcome the incredible Dr. Tony Jackson. Dr. Tony Jackson, I am so excited to have the opportunity to have a conversation with you. When we are together at meetings or presenting together, folks clearly realize and recognize right away that you must be Mama's favorite brother among the Dr. Jacksons in the superintendency in the state of North Carolina. You certainly are, as I have introduced you, one of my gurus, one of my mentors, and somebody that I just hold in the highest of regard and esteem with great respect. It's my absolute delight to welcome you back to the EdLeader podcast. Welcome, buddy.
Hey, Rob, glad to be back here with you and glad to know that Mom is still favoring you. So,
now, we and everybody we know that is not true. And I tell you what, when I refer to you as my brother, Tony, I do so with just so much love. And it comes from a place where recognizing in you a fellow educator who really gets it at a deep level and spends a lot of time deeply reflecting on the blessing it is to be able to call ourselves educators and to do this work. Tony, I've not really ever talked to you a whole lot about it, but what was it that kind of led you into education as a profession?
Well, and I think that at my core, I am a musician, and that's the passion that brought me to the work. And I came into education as a high school choral music teacher and loved every minute of it. And through those experiences, leading and preparing choirs for performances all around the state and country, I met a lot of people who poured into me, and some of them were great leaders. And one in particular leader, Richard Murphy, who's a legendary principal in Wake County, saw something in me and thought I could be a school-based leader. And he pushed me and prepared me and gave me opportunities. And one day called me to the office and said, "I want you to be an assistant principal." And I said, "Sometime in the future, I'll be happy to." He said, "No, tomorrow." And that's how that journey started. And from that point forward, I've been obedient to the call of leadership, even when I didn't want to go. I recognized that sometimes you have to just go and do, even when you don't know where the corners are, where you don't know where the curbs are. You just go and let the journey be your home and take care of you.
Hey, Tony, thank you so much for heeding the call and for continuing to just go. In 2023, my own respect has just grown exponentially for educators who simply show up, who continue to just go. As tough and as difficult as the journey can be, as many challenges as present themselves, the obstacles that seemingly appear out of nowhere, I just appreciate people who say, here am I will do this work, whether it's something that I necessarily want to do. I recognize someone needs to do it, and here I am, and I will do my very best at it. And so I appreciate you for heeding that call and for just going forward. Buddy, share with our listeners kind of your current work, what you're currently doing. We appreciated having you on the podcast in the very first season of EdLeader, kind of launching us off. And it's so exciting for me to bring you back to have this opportunity. We know as those who follow you that you are a former state superintendent of the year, highly regarded in our state. But share with our listeners who may not be up to date on what you're currently doing, the current incredible things you're doing.
Well, I get to be the chief champion cheerleader for Chatham County schools. I changed location in 2021, and I'm entering my third year as the leader in Chatham County schools, a dynamic and amazing school system with amazing kids and great supports and great families. And I get the opportunity to help them realize the hopes and dreams for their kids. And so I get to work there. We're doing some really amazing work around college attainment. We're doing amazing work around dual language. We're doing amazing work around the arts, and we have great athletic programs. So I am in the catbird seat, as they say, and loving every single minute of the work, the tough days included, because those tough days are making us stronger, and those easy days are making us grateful.
I truly appreciate that. I will share with you that one of the things that I've really enjoyed watching, particularly through social media, as you've moved forward there in Chatham County, is your focus and your theme of #OneChatham, and recognizing that a school system should be a school system and not a system of schools, that all of us are better together than we are separate. What was kind of the motivating force behind this thought of One Chatham as you've done this work and continued to grow in the work, growing forward to realize the fullness of what it means to be One Chatham?
Yeah. So One Chatham is the outgrowth of our 100-day entry plan. And we didn't know it would be One Chatham at that time, but we grew from there and did a lot of community-based focus groups and conversations and listening and learning about the needs of our community. Chatham is a large community, 710 square miles. And we sit right in the center of pretty much the state. We're not quite the geographic center, but we're very close. And so one day we were sitting in a meeting, and it became clear to me we touched 10 counties.
Wow.
And I said, it's so easy for us to be so separate and almost connect outward. I said, we need our connective tissues to turn inward and find where we become one, and that we have to be able to build out what we want our brand promise to be. And so after bringing together thousands of people, I think we had well over 1,500 people engage in our process, we came to the realization that regardless of where you live in Chatham, we wanted every single family to be able to benefit from the resources, opportunities, and the richness of our community to ensure that their child could, again, realize their hopes and dreams. And so we came around this theme of One Chatham, because there's always been this history of, well, over there and over there. We wanted to remove over there and say over where, right here. And that right here becomes One Chatham for all kids. And so that became our rallying cry. And our community has embraced it. Our staff has embraced it. Our kids, they have embraced it, because we do know that together we're stronger, and that we do believe that it is our moral obligation to ensure that whether you live in Bennett or Chapel Hill, that you are afforded the absolute best opportunities that we can provide. And so One Chatham becomes our brand promise. It becomes our commitment to work every single day to ensure that every parent can look us in the eye, and we can look them back and say, we did the absolute best for you. And so as we have begun the work, it's been I think, rewarding to actually watch the community just absolutely just grab hold. And they hold us accountable for it too, because when they don't believe that we're meeting their expectation, I hear now, well, One Chatham, you said that we would have One Chatham, and that for my child, so I think it's an accountability tool, it's a celebratory tool, it's a rallying cry, it's a brand promise, but most of all, it's a commitment to do what's right and to ensure that we are taking every single resource that we have at our disposal and pouring it over as many kids and as many communities as we possibly can. Without apology. That's been the good part about it. One Chatham is the rallying cry, but really the battle cry is One Chatham for all children, so that we can ensure that there's nothing that will keep us from doing what we know is right for kids. And so you can tell I get excited about it.
I love it.
I really do. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, and it was just very simple to get people to realize it. It's been wonderful.
I love it. For half a second, I'm going to pull out of our conversation and just share with our listeners, as ed leaders, when asked about the work you do, I hope that you respond with as much passion and enthusiasm and excitement as we just heard from Dr. Jackson. As the one champion cheerleader for One Chatham, Dr. Jackson is modeling for all of us how we should be the cheerleaders for the work we do. And so thank you for that, Tony. Well, Tony, I wanted to have a conversation with you because just as you have One Chatham, we have one profession. And I know that you truly buy into that and you feed into that in helping grow our superintendents and our educators across the state. You've been such a great mentor to so many, including me. And recently you shared with our superintendents, you were given the opportunity to kind of lead us all in some reflection around our own place and where we were. And you shared with us that as superintendents, and I would say as ed leaders, whether we're principals or teachers or any role in education, we dive into the work and we forget ourselves. We find ourselves speaking of how drained and frustrated and tired we've been since the last time that we were together. And so you shared with our group of superintendents, the superintendent's wellness wheel, reminding us that self-care is not selfish. And so I want to spend a few moments going around the superintendent's wellness wheel and talking about these 8 points and what they mean to you so that we can all kind of benefit from your thinking. But as we kind of get ready to roll along with this wellness wheel for educators, what kind of led you to feeling like this is something we need to share with each other and we need to attend to? What was kind of the motivating force behind putting this together for us?
Yeah, Rob, one of the things that I recognize as a leader, and having sat in the superintendent's chair now for 15 years and been in the profession now for 35, leaders, we are the very best at supporting everyone else and putting our needs to the side. When we know there is a truism, And that truism is that at our lowest point, at our weakest point, this job will take us out.
Yes.
So when you're not at your healthiest point, when you're not taking care of yourself, that's when you are most susceptible to making mistakes. You're not as alert. You're not as focused as you could be. So what led me here is going through a pretty low point professionally and realizing that I was doing damage to myself by not taking care of myself. And that a mentor looked me square in the eye and said to me that unless you are healthy and whole, you will not be able to lead as if you are healthy and whole. And so that was a defining moment for me. Without going into all of the other details, I had a health scare that really changed my mindset about this work. And I had to make a real personal decision about I've got to take care of Tony before I can go and take care of the 10,000 kids that I'm responsible for every day.
I appreciate that so much, and I tell you, thank you for sharing your journey in coming to this place. One of the things that stands out to me is that when we talk about self-care, it's easy to fall in the trap of what we mean is going for a walk or going for a run or exercise. And what you really share with us is wellness being much, much broader than that. So certainly taking care of ourselves physically is a part of it, but it's much broader than that. And as you worked through these 8 areas, I really recognized that it's bigger and it should be attended to, because if we really want to serve others, we can't serve them from an empty plate, as Carrie Robinson has said. We have to have something to give if it is that we want to give. And so let's kind of dive right in. So the first area that you shared with us is called leading with purpose, by being present and available. Tell me, what does that mean to you, leading with purpose?
Well, I think it means that first you have to decide that I'm going to give my best. And not put unrealistic expectations on yourself. And here's the litmus test that I give everyone around me and I hold myself accountable for. It's the old athlete's creed. Leave it all on the field. And if you do that, then what does that really look like? It says that when you come off the field, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, there was nothing else I could have done today. And I break it down into daily activities. There's nothing else I could have done today to change the trajectory for children. I'll go back tomorrow and try even harder. But today I left it all on the field. But if you can look yourself in the eye and say, oh, I should have, or I thought about it, and then you didn't do your best. And so I would say your purpose has to be so very clear. Why are you here? And you're not here to be perfect. You're not here to save everybody. You're here to build pathways. You're here to make the next generation's journey a more realistic option for them by the things that you do today. So remove all of that perfection and focus in on your purpose, your why. Why are you here? You choose to do this work? Why do you keep coming back every day? And since I'm here, I'm going to do my very best to ensure that you get the best and that you have the opportunity to achieve those things that are on your bucket list or your checkoff list.
I love it. I love it. Leading with purpose. Leave it on the field. There's no question. Children are worthy of our very best. And you're exactly right. The second area you share is prioritize your growth. Share with me your thinking around that. Prioritize your growth.
The word there is yours. And I think one of the things that I learned, and again, it's a personal journey for me, is that up until, while we're pursuing a leadership role, we are hungry for opportunities to grow. We go to every PD there is, and some of that is the networking that goes along with that. But I find that as soon as we get into the seed, we stop growing. And we start sending other people. I remember as a principal, I would sign off on everybody to go to PD and plan PD. And then I had to ask myself once, and I asked every superintendent, I asked every leader to just do this single self-assessment. What are your learning goals for this year? Not the organization's learning goals, not the department's goals, but what are your personal learning goals this year? And if you're not setting real goals and really continuing to grow, then you're not prioritizing your own growth. You're just facilitating everyone else's growth. And when you prioritize your own growth, then in fact, you have very tangible, measurable goals for yourself. For me this year, I said, and sometimes they're very simple. I have a very simple one this year. This year, I'm going to learn to have conversations with people I don't agree with.
Oh,
And so I'm actually learning. I mean, that's a very real one. So I'm really trying to work on strategies to not only engage, but also strategies to listen. I'm looking for strategies to have uncomfortable conversations. So I'm looking for specific support, PD, and training that will help me in that area. It's very real for me. But you've got to prioritize your own growth before you can help others. On the plane, when the mask drops, it says first you put the mask on.
that's right.
And then you help other people. We have allowed that mask to drop, and we've passed it to so many other people now, and then we suffocate because we don't grow. We have to prioritize our own growth and be very intentional about it and not be apologetic about it.
There's no question. And I love that question. And every one of our listeners and each of us need to spend time with that. What are our individual learning goals? And I love that you said for this year, because we want to continue to grow, which is the perfect segue into our next area as the wellness wheel keeps turning, which is continuous learning. What does continuous learning mean to you? That's one of those phrases we use a lot in education, but what does continuous learning mean to you, Tony?
Yeah, I just believe that we have to stay current and recognize clearly that 50% of what we think we know could be wrong. And so as a learner, you have to be willing to challenge those things that you thought were so. And until you've answered all questions, you can grow. And so I believe that as leaders, we have to remain curious. As leaders, we have to remain so very nimble and willing to, attack and rethink and reflect on those things that we thought we really knew. And now we may learn some things that will challenge us to really question some of that, but it will also push us into that discomfort that only allows us to grow, because typically you don't grow without some level of pain, and so sometimes that continuous learning pushes us into that uncomfortable place where we have to ask hard questions that will challenge those things we thought we knew. And out of that, we become better. And so that's where I like to be there. And it's very tough, but you also have to feed yourself constantly so that you don't become stagnant, so that you don't become that barrier that keeps those kids from achieving the brand promise of one Chatham.
That's it.
That's what I want.
That's it. Well, it's the saying of if you're not growing, you're dying, right? There's not really a stasis for educators to be. You mentioned being a musician and a choral teacher. I was an elementary teacher. I was trained to teach children how to read as a literacy instructor. And for myself, a learning goal was to really dive into the science of reading. And so that's been part of one of the special series we've done on the podcast, is me wanting to continue to grow myself in an area that by training I should know, but we know better, so we should do better. And to be able to know better, to do better, as Maya Angelou would say, we've got to learn better. And so I appreciate that area in the wheel about continuous learning, which leads, of course, to the next area, which is a growth mindset. And you talk about in this area some celebrations, even as part of having a growth mindset. What does it mean to have a growth mindset, Tony?
Well, I just believe that the growth mindset means that you're open,
Mm.
that you're open, and that you're willing, and that you're a vessel that allows you to see possibilities. I think sometimes we get so very paralyzed by past pain that we leave and never experience or even believe that we are entitled to even celebrate those small things that happen. I think a growth mindset is nothing more than learning how to celebrate small wins along
No
the journey.
question. No
That's it.
question. No
And
question. And that celebration piece is so incredibly important. I'm sure as a high school principal yourself back in the day, you saw as I did when you had an athletic team that experienced success or won a state championship, suddenly other athletic teams playing other sports were celebrating success and winning championships because we had celebrated before the team that had just accomplished something, and everybody around went, oh, well, we can too. And those celebrations kind of increase our own belief in our own potential for growing. And so certainly that growth mindset is so very important. And so the next part of the wheel is probably the only part that some of us think about when we think about our own wellness, and that is the area of self-care. You've been very vulnerable in sharing your own kind of wellness journey, your self-care journey. Some of your treadmill thoughts have been some of the most powerful things that I've heard as my morning was starting, and certainly I've appreciated you sharing that with all of us. But what is self-care? What does that mean to you? How do you define that as you're sharing with others?
yeah, I think for me, uh, self-care is really learning all over again for some of us, and for others, expanding your love for yourself.
Mm.
It is the opportunity to say that at this moment, I'm going to take care of me. And I'm going to do so without asking permission. I'm going to do so without apology. Because again, it goes back to one of the earlier things I said. If you're not healthy and whole, you cannot do this work. And so for me, I try to, I'm not one of those individuals who tries to impose my habits on other people. So I'm not that person who's going to say everybody needs to get up and run every morning, or everybody needs to. I think you need to do that thing that really feeds your soul, feeds your mental self, that gives you the energy and the fuel to want to do work and want to move forward every day. I tend to get up at 4 a.m. And I get on the treadmill, and I get on the rower, and I get on the bike, or whatever it is that's going to speak to me for that day to give me a fuel so that I can do well. But I also think that self-care means that you are making good choices about you. And in our work, I think, and I've said this to our leaders, we've got to be so very careful, because I don't think leaders are typically the people who we think about ourselves last. We're so, we don't think very much about the other, what could happen down the road. And we think we're going to be here all of the time. But I think part of it, it's not, for me, ever about losing weight or winning races. It's always about feeling better and being stronger and feeling good about yourself. And when you do that, you can do some things. But I think it also has to do with choices that we make. I often say to my folk, if we're going to have a table of food, we're going to have more on that table than just bread and bagels. We're going to put some fruit out there, put some water out there, put some juice out there, put some things that people can use if they want to make healthy choices. Because I think we have designed a profession where we just make very unhealthy choices all day long. And then if we're also putting ourselves last, then we're not going to, we're not going to be able to return that. And I don't want to see any of my friends in this work succumb to this work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want them to really lead this work strong, be in this work strong, and not have to do a whole lot of fixing to be healthy and whole. So the self-care part, I say over and over again, it took me a long time to get there, my mind to get there. But I encourage everyone to really understand. I don't know who it was. I think it's a training we had where it said self-care is never selfish, and that you don't have to ask for permission to take care of yourself. So I implore all of us, particularly after in this post-pandemic leadership context, understand that we have a responsibility to take care of ourselves first, so that others might benefit from, if nothing else, our model.
There you go.
And so I want that to be understood, that we're not trying to show off; we're just trying to be models for one another, and so that's really important to me.
Listen, you are preaching to the choir. I absolutely agree with you about everything you just said. To be able to sustain in the work, and you've sustained for 35 plus years as an educator, for 15 years as a superintendent, blowing out national averages and state averages for sustaining in the role. To sustain, we have to take care of ourselves. And I really appreciate what you just said about modeling for others. I've talked about with our team that we have to redefine what success looks like as educational leaders, because for too long we said what success looks like was being in the building after everybody else went home, about being the first one to walk in, the last one to leave, to work 7 days a week, to answer emails 24/7, and all the things which were unhealthy choices at the end of the day and led to lots of folks not being able to sustain in the work. And so as ed leaders who care about our team and our teammates, one of the things we can do is to model self-care is not selfish, and to encourage others. Simple things just like having water and fruit or veggie sticks or something out on the table alongside the donuts is an easy thing to do, but it gives folks the opportunity and the choice to make their own decisions and allowing them to move forward. So thank you for that. The next area I think it really speaks to, it's incredibly important. And this area is building a support network. What does that mean to you, Tony? Building a support network?
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. And we've learned, I think one of the things I've learned is that we've got to connect with one another, and really look out for one another in these roles as leaders, and particularly in our profession as educators. I think it is nothing for me to reach out and just check on one of my fellow colleagues. Just if they cross my mind, I have a rule. If you cross my mind, I'm reaching out. You may not respond, but that's just the rule that I've given myself. I had somebody today, a person that crossed my mind. I picked up the phone and called them from the car. Hadn't talked with them in a while, and it was good to hear that voice. But in the profession, I think as superintendents in particular, we have a responsibility to build our networks and to support one another. And this work is hard enough.
Yes.
And so there's no reason for you to do it alone. Many hands make easier work. And so I just believe that. And so we can problem solve together. We can commiserate together, but we can also celebrate together. Iron will sharpen iron, but the iron has to get close enough to one another to make it happen.
That's exactly right. It goes back to the real famous saying that no man is an island, but in education, we tend to create islands, whether it's the teacher who's alone in their classroom or the only principal in the building or the only superintendent in the district. And we have to make sure that we're not allowing folks to be islands. And that could be as simple as you said, by making a quick phone call to say, hey, you were just on my mind, wanted to say hello. And what an incredible thing that is to offer ourselves in support of each other. And I certainly have benefited from being one of the folks that you reached out to and said, hey, just thinking about you, buddy. And I certainly appreciate that, Tony. Tony, the next area, man, All right. Now this may be one of the hardest we've talked about so far, and that's this: work-life balance. Holy goodness, if I haven't just messed this up for my own 30 plus years and now 10 years as a superintendent. Work-life balance. How in the world are we going to make that happen?
Well, most of us fail at it because we don't make it a priority, and I'm guilty. We're all guilty. And so I think one of the things I've shared with many leaders over time is that, especially superintendents, when you get to the role, after you get your salary taken care of in that contract, I encourage you to start talking about boundaries, boundaries that include your work-life balance. I think the job is all encompassing. But I remind people of one thing, and my mentor told me this at the beginning of my leadership journey. And I remember, and I've fashioned it over the years for the position. But here's what I know: the superintendency is what I do. It's not who I am.
There you go.
And when you're in touch with who you are, then in fact the balance then becomes more important because you have to feed who you are. The job's going to be there, and unfortunately, the day you leave, they're going to find somebody else to do the job. But you're the original, and they can't even create a print of you. That's how unique and special you are. So you have to take care of that and balance that and make sure that you are okay, and that there's a healthy balance of giving over here, but also enjoying over here. And I struggle with it. I have to be very honest, and a lot of us fail at it, and superintendents notoriously fail at it. But please understand that at the end of this journey, it's not going to be about a board meeting. It's not going to be about a board policy. It's not going to be about a state budget. It's going to be about how did you take care of yourself, and how did you enjoy the journey, and how did you invest so that you had enough energy and things to absolutely enjoy the fruits of the journey. And you have to be able to do that unapologetically. It's not, I don't know any other profession where you're supposed to wear the wheels off of the wagon and then still be able to ride in the wagon.
That's it. That's it. And Tony, I don't know that it could be said any better than that. All of us, I think, have loved ones, whatever that looks for us in our own unique places, whether that's a spouse or a partner or a neighbor. We have loved ones, whoever that is. And if we're not careful, we have nothing left to share with our loved ones when the journey, the work comes to an end. As you said, we are stewards of the moment. And so the moment will come when we take off the mantle of leadership and someone else will put it right on, and they'll continue forward doing great things. And there we are, alone with our loved ones and those folks who've been around us. And the goal is that there's something left of us, and hopefully we're in a good place and we can feel this last area. And this last area, I am so glad that the wheel ends on this area, because it's one that just brings the biggest smile to me. And I'm just so excited to talk about this area. The last area on the wheel, personal joy. When you think about wellness as a whole, as a construct, why is it so important that personal joy is a part of that?
Find something every day to be relentlessly positive about. And from that, joy will emanate.
Yes.
I just believe that fully. Every day I'm presented with challenges. Every day somebody wants to be Eeyore in my space. and I choose joy. I choose to flip. You can flip any situation if you want to. Mm-hmm. You can solve any situation if you want to. Mm-hmm. You can answer any question if you want to. Mm-hmm. And so I just believe that for me, I'd say this year with my staff, I say over and over again, we're going to be relentlessly positive. We're not going to allow all of that outside stuff to steal our joy. And I had great folk in my life. Grandma used to say very clearly, I don't allow other people to come into my house and set the temperature. So it's that simple. It's that simple. I set the temperature and enjoy whatever that temperature is, and every day find joy. That's a choice, and that's a choice. Every day find joy.
Mm-hmm. And what a better world it is if everyone is just looking for the joy, because certainly the joy is present when we choose to find it. Well, one of the big joys in my life, personally and professionally, is the joy that you bring into my life, Tony. You and I, over the many years we have worked together, in working in separate parts of the state, but coming together often, have talked about really tough challenges from the state level, challenges in our own districts, challenges in our personal lives. And in all of those conversations, one common element stands out above the others. And that's that we found the joy in connection and being able to share with each other, which speaks to a lot of the areas we've just talked to. Tony, you are truly a mentor for me. You're a mentor for many. You are one of the voices that many listen to in our state when it comes to education. You bring joy into many lives, including mine. Tony Jackson, thank you for spending time with us on the EdLeader podcast. You, sir, are the man, and there's a reason you're mama's favorite.
Thanks, Rob. I'll say it as I do it when I close everything. One Chatham for all kids. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir. I hope that you enjoyed our time together with Dr. Tony Jackson. He keeps it real and has given us all so much to reflect on while we prioritize our own growth and self-care. What do you think? Please keep sharing your feedback on Twitter or X at Dr._Rob_Jackson through email or by commenting directly on the show notes page. If you think it's been helpful, please share the episode and podcast with your network of friends and colleagues. Thank you for spending time with me today. And thank you for all that you do for every student, every teacher, and every staff member. You are making a difference. If no one else has told you, I want you to know that I believe in you. Good day.
Thank you for listening to the EdLeader podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and consider leaving a review with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts so that we may continue to grow the EdLeader community. We hope that you have enjoyed your time with Dr. Jackson. Until next time.